talk about, on this tour and in your next match, there's a couple, once or twice you opposed them, but you usually tagged with them. I'm sure they were a big hit in Japan. They seem to have, that big American bruiser, Brody / Terry Gordy / Stan Hansen bruising style. The Nasty Boys did the tour with you. What was it like hanging out with those two fellas?
I had a great, that tour was so incredible. The 10 days, that first 10 days, well, they were there for 2 weeks. So, right. You mentioned Max Moon, and he was my partner. Now, that Max Moon at that point was Paul Diamond. Again, that was the only time I was around Paul Diamond, and I got on very well with him for the 10 days. Not my story to tell, but I don't know what it was. They didn't like him. Somebody else will have that story, but I'm not going to tell it. I do know a version of it, but it's none of my business. But for whatever reason, they decided not that they didn't like him. So Max Moon originally was Conan, and then it was passed on to Paul Diamond. This is just the end of there's a couple of things that they've noted here, but Max Moon character had a mask, and then he had these big things that went on his arms that shot like ribbons and things, I think, out of them.
Tassels, right?
Tassel, was it? Yeah. But they actually had these things that fit on his arm.
Right.
And it came in a big crate with a, like the microphones and stuff, the sponge stuff when you create music stuff.
Okay, yeah,
right, so a big music crate, because it had these big things that fit on his arms and like whatever it was. I would imagine Leon had one for his Vader mask and that. It was just, but this Max Moon thing, they were doing it in New Japan. Right, they see these big things. Well, so they shot.
I'm sorry. Steve Coffin just flashed the picture, and I wasn't familiar with the giant faux.
Oh, right.
That he wore.
Right, yeah.
That poor guy.
Right. Well, but again, everybody's got their own story. Unless you do anything to me, I get on with everybody. I've learned in my life, if I wasn't to talk to people who did something that I didn't like, I'd never talk to anybody. Does that make sense?
That's a lesson for us all, including myself.
Right. Sure. We all have to just get, okay, well, unless it's something really like, I'd never talk to anybody. I've got no politics. I keep out of politics. It's not that I have different views on everything, but I keep out of it. No religion, no, anything to get into arguments with. People do things. I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. People can get self-righteous, but something had happened with Paul Diamond. And the Nasty Boys had got the ump. When I say the ump, it's an English saying, and I'm going to use another English saying, got the needle, which means just not happy with somebody. If you hear me ever say got the ump or got the needle, means they're not happy with somebody. Right. Well, at the end of the last day of this tour, the Max Moon box comes out, and the Nasty Boys sent out a couple of the young Japanese young boys, the New Japan young boys, to the fish market to get the largest, biggest, horriblest fish that they could possibly find. And these things were great big, I don't know what kind of fish they were, but huge, big things with the eyes, lips still on, and straight from the fish market. So on the very last night, he's took off the armbands. He's done it. They've got the box, pulled the foam out, stuffed these fish inside it, right? And then the young boys have put the armbands in and they've closed the crate. This crate, Paul Diamond lived in Tampa. It's just gone on the plane, and this is just theatre of the mind to me now. But I would imagine he's gone on from Japan, and because Japan was a grueling thing, for a few weeks, it was a grueling, because he worked hard there. Let's put it that way. And I just imagine, God knows what happened, but one day he's going to be in his garage, as you Americans say, garage, as I say. He's in he's going to gone in there, and surely, right, two big rotting fish in this thing, and he's going to have had to open this. And I've never seen him since, so I don't know what happened. But I can't imagine this being like a pleasant state. That this big crate is sat in his garage in Tampa in this was in the summer when we were there. You've probably got the dates there. It was what, August or something or whatever.
June.
Right. Well, don't matter. It's Tampa and it's hot.
Right.
So he's got this thing sat in his garage, even if it's only for a day. But he's probably not going to open it up again. He's not doing, because he wasn't doing Max Moon all the time. So God knows what happens when he finally opened that up. And I've never seen him since to find out or heard about it. But that was the kind of thing that was going on. So here's the other story. Have I told you the 4th of July story with Nobs, with the toga party yet?
I do not think so.
Okay.
Oh, wait. You did. You said you didn't know what a toga was.
Right.
Right.
So I've already told you this, but
yeah.
Let's tell it again. Let's finish on this. We had the night off on the 4th of July. Excuse me. We have in my house now not only the lizards and another lizard coming this week. Now we've got a male Maine Coon cat. It grows to 30 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's a kitten. And my wife's going, doesn't realize that this thing's a puma, basically. And it's going to have me off. I know it's going to have me off.
It's going to take care of her problem.
Oh, right. Yeah, she's going to do me in. I know what she's up to. Right. One day I'll be falling asleep, and she'll cover me in probably a wet fish or something. This thing's going to kill me. Anyway, neither in it. I was just shutting the door in case it could come in and jumped on me.
Yeah, don't need a puma attack during the podcast.
Right. So it's Sags' birthday, the 4th of July. So we've had this toga party. I've told this story before, but at one point they both decided to attack me, and that didn't go well for them. So I've put them both to sleep. Did I tell you the story about when worlds collide?
I don't think you did.
Okay. So this is and if I haven't, it's worth telling again. So we're having this toga party on the top floor of this not very big hotel, because once you get outside of the big cities, they're not that big, and the rooms are very tiny and very little beds. And it's like a warrant of we're just all going in and out of each other's rooms. We're on the roof. They've sent out, Nasty Boys have sent out for fireworks because it's 4th of July. We're shooting fireworks off the top. We're having a good time. Let's put it that way. It's 24-hour party, people, right? We're having a good time, right? Then the police come and say, you've got to go. You can't be on the roof firing fireworks off. So I'm just in one of the rooms with it. Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr were there. And first time I'd met Eddie and Art, this is 94. They were going back to do When Worlds Collide in a short period of time. I'm not sure the exact time. You'd have to look that up. But they were going back to do that. This before they did that, which was I know Mike Tenay did the announcing on that incredible job. And I remember watching that match in Brian Pillman's apartment with Triple H. It's Funny Things You Remember. And Mark Marrow actually was there as well. Funny Things You Remember. As WCW co-promoted it. But so I'm just sat in one of the rooms with Eddie, I think, talking. And next thing I can hear the Nasty Boys are letting off bottle rockets down the hallway and hitting the elevator at the end. So there's big explosions going on. So the manager's up again with the police. So finally got that calmed down. The whole trip before that, whatever it was, you'd have to look at the dates. It might have only been a few days. It might have been a week. I don't know. I got on good with Art Barr when I met him. And unfortunately, he passed away not too long after. But every week from then on, he'd call me whenever he knew I was off, or he was in Mexico, but he used to fly back to Portland and that. And then unfortunately, he wasn't there one day, but I got on really well with Eddie and Art that week. But Art was bragging a lot about how much money that they were going to make for this. They did it on the Worlds Collide match. They did a hair versus mask match, right? Excuse me, why I just wet my whistle.
No problem at all.
Just
that's what we get for having such long podcasts, you know.
Yeah. So, but so it's also salt and potassium and magnesium, which is so he was. Let's just say it wasn't a bragging, but he was going on a little bit. And around the Nasty Boys, there's, they are what they are, right? And I think the world of both of them, and they can be a right pain in the backside one minute, but I had more fun with them, as much fun with them as I have with most people, with the exception of Dave Taylor and Dave Taylor, Terry Rudgeon, and Robbie Brookside. I've had a lot of fun with the Nasty Boys. And on this particular 4th of July night, I ended up going to bed. What I didn't know was the Nasty Boys had been dropping a lot of things in Art Barr's drinks. Let's put it that way. And he fell asleep. I wake up the next morning to bang, 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 bang. I mean, sounding like World War III's kicking off. I go out into the hallway, and it's a tiny hallway. So I just open this tiny door. Eddie Guerrero, my great friend, and as far as I'm concerned, the best all-round wrestler of all time. That's my opinion.
Hard to argue with that.
Once he, as far as being not a wrestler, but the everything. Once he figured out the talking, the best of them all. That's in my opinion, right? And I don't care what anybody said. There was everything about him was great. So Eddie is trying to kick, and I don't know if it was Knobs or Sags' door, because I'm just, whoa, what's going on? And he's got a huge butcher's knife. He'd gone down to the kitchen and got a knife. Now I've got no idea what's going on, so I've just run out and took the knife off Eddie. I've just hooked Eddie's arm, got him down, and said, Eddie, whatever it is, it's not worth it. Got the knife off him, threw it up the other end of the thing, calmed him down, got him in his room, got showered, got everything. So I go and get on the bus. Now, when you go in the Japanese way of it used to be anyway, once you got your seat on your bus, that was your seat for the rest of the tour.
So choose wisely.
Choose wisely, yeah. And I had a nice seat, but right across from me, not right across, but then the one on the other side in front of me was Art Barr. And I climb on the bus, and I don't know what's like. I still don't know what's happening, but I've got Eddie calmed down, and there's no sign of Art Bar. The Nasty Boys are already on the bus, and they're laughing, just laughing their heads off hysterically. And I walk past Art Bar's seat, and I see a carrier bag, like a plastic bag, with a pile of hair and a $5 bill on top of it. What they've done is cutting chunks and most of his hair off and shaved his eyebrows off and stuck it, because he was bragging. And I'll say the figure. I don't know if this is true or not, but he said they were guaranteed $17,000. I actually asked Vicky Guerrero recently, and she said that wasn't the case at all. So
there's a lesson there.
There's a lesson there. Yeah. Don't brag about it. And there's a lesson and there's another. This is a serious lesson. Wrestlers, when you come in the wrestling job, whether you want to listen to me or not, this used to be an old thing. You make your own deals, but don't talk money with people, because it causes problems. But you have to make your own deal, and then you have to be happy with it. If you want any more of that, I can expand on that in other, but I've seen so much trouble over that over the years. Make your own deal, but you've got to make your own deal and be satisfied with that. But don't go talking about how much money you're making with people, because it's just not the thing to do. It's a lost thing in wrestling now, and people talk to each other and tell each other about, that's your business. Keep it your business and between you and the person you're working for, because it creates animosity, and you don't. The less of that I can try and save you, the better. You don't need that, right? So anyway, so there's this funny. So eventually Art Bar gets on, and he's got this cap on and no eyebrows. Well, they're just laughing, and I'm trying not to, because I feel bad for the fella. So if you ever see that Worlds Collide pay-per-view when he gets his head shaved, Art, there's very little of his real hair.
There's very little left.
Very little left. It was all, he had to go back however long it was, either grew what he could in the time, or have hair extensions on. What you're seeing getting shaved off is not, and again, there's people who know that the months and the time difference, but it wasn't too far after, because they were talking about it on this tour non-stop. Well, Art was talking about it. Eddie wasn't. Eddie wasn't saying anything. Eddie was being just great Eddie, and me and Eddie, me and him got on really well. We bonded a great friendship there. Me and Art got on, but he did have this thing about bragging. And so, yes, I'll end on that. So if you see that, because that's a famous, well, pretty infamous, it was in the old days. Again, it's 30 years ago, isn't it? But that was like a big pay-per-view. And a lot of people
still
talk about that, and
as one of the greatest of all time.
Right. Yeah. And so, but Art Bar's hair isn't Art Bar's hair on that when it's getting cut at the end. There's very, very little of it, because it was left on a seat bus in Japan.
Well, if you guys get a chance to watch that. If you get a chance to subscribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to, give us a review over on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Special thanks for this episode. Steve Kaufman does all the video.
Thanks, Steve.
So much else. Wesley Brolson, of course, who does our audio. Dominic D'Angelo does our social. And I'm always going to forget somebody. Everybody involved with ad-free shows. And we just like to thank everybody. Oh, of course, Derek, who does our research. And we will see you next time on the Gentleman Villain Podcast.
Thank you very much, everyone who works on this. And thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you.
We'll see you next week.